In today's video, we are going to bring a recap of a romantic and comedy Korean show called True Beauty. An 18-year-old high school student, Ju Kyung, has an inferiority complex regarding her appearance. She is constantly discriminated against by her family and bullied by her peers due to her ugly looks. She starts learning how to use makeup by watching makeup tutorial videos on the internet and masters the art. She has been transferred to her new school. Her makeover proves to be effective as she quickly rises to fame and her peers call her a goddess. However, she ends up being involved in a love triangle with bad boy Seo-jun and kind-hearted yet quiet Soo-ho. As a child, Ju Kyung is bullied because of her ugly looks. She tries to transform herself into a fairy. But sadly, that doesn't work as she gets bullied by other kids. She starts to compare herself to a character from a horror or cursed story rather than a cartoon character. The years tick by, but nothing seems to have changed. At school, she's constantly bullied by her classmates, particularly a group of bullies. She is so upset that she even tries to kill herself. She goes to the top of a building and stands at the edge as if she is going to jump. In the meantime, Soo-ho appears and pulls her back. However, she loses her glasses, so she is not able to see him properly. Soo-ho saved Ju Kyung because he didn't want the same thing to happen to her as it did to his friend Se-yeon. As she gets back home, she decides to make a change, and that comes in the form of doing her makeup. But her look is far too flashy. When she gets back home, she's informed that they are moving to their old house because the apartment they are living in has to be sold to pay off family debts. She is beyond happy to know that she is transferring to a new school. She still doesn't give up on her looks and tries out new tutorials and eventually masters the art of makeup. The next day, she shows up at the school and becomes the center of attention because of how pretty she looks. It turns out that Soo-ho goes to the same school as well. However, the two didn't recognize each other. Ju Kyung finds it way easier to make new friends because of her pretty looks and becomes close with Soo-ah and Soo-jin. Her life gets better until she comes across Soo-ho in a comic store without wearing any makeup. She manages to dodge him and heads back to her home. The next day, she runs into a strange man named Seo-jun, who is being chased by a group of thugs. When they're gone, Ju Kyung appears but becomes flustered and runs away with Seo-jun's helmet. Meanwhile, Soo-ho's father, Ju-hun, returns and the two start fighting at the dojo. There is clearly no love between them, and it is revealed that he cheated on his mother in the past. Later, Ju Kyung and Soo-ho bump into each other once again at the comic store. Ju Kyung thinks that Soo-ho has recognized her, and she is afraid that he will tell her friends how she looks completely different without makeup. Both of them discuss their favorite comics, and it turns out that Ju Kyung has the comic that Soo-ho has been looking for. Eventually, the pair make a confidentiality deal in which Soo-ho has to keep her secret, whereas Ju Kyung has to give him the comic book. But both of them are talking about different secrets. Soo-ho thinks that she wants him to hide the secret that she tried to commit suicide. On the other hand, Ju Kyung thinks that Soo-ho is hiding her makeup secret. Anyways, the following day, she shows up at the school and realizes that Seo-jun goes to the same school, and what's even more shocking is that he and Soo-ho used to be best friends, but something bad happened in their past that made them enemies. Later, she goes to the rooftop with Soo-ho to give him the comic and his jacket with a note inside about her true looks, but she finds out that he doesn't know about her no-makeup look, so she rushes to him and manages to get the bag. Later that evening, they meet up again, but this time she shows up with her no-makeup look and hands him the comic. At school, an unexpected event happens and Ju Kyung gets hit by the cake in the face. This makes her worried that her makeup will fade away, so she rushes to the hallway with her pouch to find an empty restroom. Soo-ho appears at the scene and helps her to cover her head with his jacket, leading her away from the crowd. Later, the two meet again at the comic store, and all of a sudden, Soo-ho admits that he knows that she is her classmate, Ju Kyung. She tries to deny it, but suddenly her mother steps in and yells out her name, which finally uncovers the truth. The next day, she asks him not to tell anyone about her secret, and in return, she promises to do everything he says. She starts to do her job and brings in whatever he needs, including drinks and comic books. A few moments later, she is stopped by Seo-jun in the hallway, who asks her to return his helmet. But it turns out that his brother has sold it on a resale app. She writes an apology note to Seo-jun and tells him the truth. One night, Soo-ho asks her to bring his favorite drink to the park. On her way, she encounters a drunk man who bullies her badly, and she even gets injured. As she gets to the park, Soo-ho helps her to fix her wound, and it seems like he's growing affectionate towards her. The next day, Seo-jun encounters Soo-ho, and he tells him that he must be happy after killing their old friend. With that, he goes to Ju Kyung. This makes Soo-ho furious and the two start fighting, but thankfully, the teacher gets involved and they are stopped. The reason behind the fight between the boys is actually the death of their old friend Se-yeon. We are shown a flashback in which Se-yeon is being followed by some reporters because of a scandal, and he tells Seo-jun that he will go to Soo-ho, who might be able to help him, but sadly, a few moments later, Seo-jun gets to know that he committed suicide, and he blames Suho for Se-yeon's death. Later, Ju-kyung takes a bus back home. Suho appears and sits next to her. He starts to show off jealousy signs when he learns that she's going on a blind date. Seo-jun and his mother arrive at the salon owned by Ju-kyung's mother, and by chance, Ju-kyung is also there. She tries to cover her face, but Seo-jun quickly takes a picture of her wearing a face mask. The next day, she gets a chance to get back at him as she photographs him while riding his motorcycle and threatens him to send it to his mother. Both of them have incriminating evidence against each other. The next day, she shows up at school looking as radiant as ever. Seo-jun makes his moves and tries to get closer to her. This makes Suho jealous, and he tells her not to go behind him. Seo-jun starts to give a lot of attention to Ju-kyung, from giving her orange juice to letting her know that he'll do whatever she says. She, on the other hand, continues to say no to whatever he says and even tells him to leave her alone. Later, she sees a girl named Go-woon getting slapped by her classmates because of her ugly looks. Seeing her getting bullied, she remembers her older self and decides to help her. It's revealed that the girl has to sing as the soloist for the choir community at the school festival. Later, Suho meets Seo-jun and tells him proudly that he likes Ju-kyung and thinks that Seo-jun would back off. However, he scoffs at the notion and claims that he is interested in her as well. And it turns out that he is using her as blackmail against him because he wants to get back at him for Se-yeon's death. The next day, the school celebrates the festival. In the meantime, Ju-kyung takes Go-woon aside and helps her fix her makeup. This enables her to deliver an outstanding performance, and she even gets a standing ovation. But later, Ju-kyung is shocked to learn that Go-woon is actually Seo-jun's sister. That night, Se-yeon's song is played out, and it immediately causes Suho to cry. As we cut back in time, we are shown a flashback where Suho ignored calls from Se-yeon when he needed him. Unfortunately, these failed calls eventually led to Se-yeon committing suicide. Back to the present, Ju-kyung sees Suho getting emotional, but before she can help him, he asks her to go back. Interestingly, on her way back home, she realizes that Suho is the man who saved her when she was about to jump off a builder's roof. So she rushes back to him and finds him crying on the same rooftop where Se-yeon committed suicide. She leans forward and throws her arms around him in order to comfort him. When Suho gets back to home, he meets his father, who tells him that he wants to come to his parent-teacher meeting. Sumo is not happy with this idea and tells him not to come because he doesn't want everyone to know about his father's identity. However, he shows up at the parent-teacher meeting day and becomes the center of attention because of being a famous Korean artist. We then cut back in time to the moments after Se-yeon's death, and it turns out that Ju-han is linked to his death as he kicked him out of his entertainment group heartlessly and is unconcerned about the situation. Coming back to the present, Seo-jun starts to like Ju-kyung, and in the meantime, she appears right in front of him, which makes his heart skip a beat. On the other hand, Hee-kyung and Ju-kyung's teacher, Ju-hoon, get closer to each other and share a passionate moment. Later that day, something bad is about to happen as Ju-kyung gets surrounded by the thugs from before. They use her as bait to get Seo-jun, but what they don't know is that they are about to get beaten up as Suho, Seo-jun, and Ju-kyung's friends arrive at the scene. A serious fight breaks out and they manage to save her. A famous baseball player, Hyun-jin, gets interested in Ju-kyung as he meets her after the match. He even asks for her number, which makes Suho get a jealousy attack, and he walks away in a huff. Later, Hyun-jin even arrives at the school and invites her to the final match. The next day, Soo-jin is upset about something, so Suho tries to comfort her. But Ju-kyung sees this from afar and assumes that Sumo has started to like Soo-jin. We move forward in time and see both guys at the final baseball match. Things turn crazier when both of them admit that they are here for Ju-kyung and they both like her. Uh-oh. Suho makes his move and decides to confess his feelings first. On the other hand, the school has planned a camping trip for the students. The students start to gather in the field. Suho's jealousy is more obvious than ever by seeing Ju-kyung and Seo-jun together. As they arrive in the woods, he tries to tell her how he feels, but she seems to be avoiding him because she thinks she is not the one whom he likes. Come on, girl, he is just interested in you. Anyways, the two finally get some time together as he takes her out on a boat, but their romantic moment is quickly ruined as Ju-kyung falls into the water, subsequently removing all of her makeup. However, she manages to sneak back to the tent. Later that night, she sees Suho and Soo-jin sitting together and gets upset once again. She goes away and starts crying, but Seo-jun appears and wipes off her tears, resulting in the makeup fading away. Eventually, Suho catches up with Ju-kyung and tells her it's a misunderstanding about him liking Soo-jin. But before he could elaborate further, the rest of the group showed up in search of a haunted spirit. The two are forced to hide since Ju-kyung is not wearing makeup. And the moment we have all been waiting for has arrived as Suho admits that the person he likes is actually Ju-kyung. After that, the two share a passionate kiss. And with that, our recap comes to an end. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, see you next time,